Listen up, soldier. Tonight we're plunging you straight into the heart of Berlin, April 1945. Not the polished tourist trap you see in guidebooks, but a city ripped apart at the seams. Crumbling facades, twisted metal skeletons, and smoke that leaves a metallic tang on your tongue. You're huddled in a stinking cellar that technically qualifies as a bunker, but feels more like a tomb with peeling wallpaper. The walls are sweating condensation. So are you, probably. And that's understandable, because you're about to discover exactly why you wouldn't survive 24 hours as a German soldier during the Battle of Berlin. Before you get too comfortable in your chair, hit that like button and subscribe, but only if you genuinely appreciate this kind of immersive storytelling. Drop a comment about where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm always fascinated by how far these historical deep dives reach across the globe. Now, dim your screen brightness. Maybe turn on a fan for that constant background drone. And let's begin tonight's journey together. You're perched on a splintered wooden crate beside a field radio that stopped working last Tuesday and hasn't bothered to start since. Above ground, Soviet artillery pounds the city in what sounds like never-ending thunder. Every 30 seconds or so, another explosion rattles the ceiling, sprinkling powdered concrete onto your neck like toxic snow. You brush it off. Again and again. The air hangs thick with moisture, like it's trying to dissolve you from the inside out. This isn't the front line anymore. This is the only line. The concept of front lines has dissolved into history. Scholars still argue whether Berlin even had organized defenses by this point, or if it had simply fractured into isolated pockets of terrified men, each clutching a rifle on some random street corner with no real plan. You've got a rusted helmet, one magazine of ammunition, and a growing sense of utter pointlessness. For one fleeting moment, the shelling stops. Your ears ring in a sudden silence, which somehow feels worse than the explosions. You drag yourself up the stairs, your knees protesting despite your youth, and lift the tattered canvas flap that used to be a front door. The house above has no roof, no windows, no facade, just skeletal walls and shifting shadows. The street lies gutted, bricks, mangled bicycles, the occasional shattered piano, fragments of civilian life scattered like confetti from a wedding that got bombed instead of celebrated. You step outside, adjusting your belt for the 100th time. It's too loose. It belonged to someone else. Probably someone dead. Your boots don't match. One's cracked leather, the other's more like reinforced cardboard. You shuffle forward anyway. To your left, what was once a bakery is now a pile of flour-coated rubble. To your right, a Volkssturm unit, mostly grandfathers and boys barely shaving, struggles to repair a half-destroyed anti-tank gun. One kid still has braces. Another whistles a tune that almost sounds familiar. It's the kind of cheerful whistling that desperately pretends none of this is happening. You envy him, just a little. You trudge toward the remains of your assigned outpost. Technically, you're with the 18th Panzer Grenadier Division, though that designation barely means anything now. The chain of command collapsed days ago. Most officers are gone, dead, deserted, or holed up in the Führer bunker arguing over maps that stopped being accurate weeks back. You recall hearing someone say Hitler himself was still in the city, buried in some underground maze a few blocks away. Historians still debate whether Hitler's presence made soldiers fight harder, or if it just gave them one more reason to lose hope. You don't care. You've never seen him. You probably never will. As you cross the next intersection, a Soviet shell slams into a building 2 blocks away. You hit the dirt instinctively. A dust cloud mushrooms upward. A chunk of concrete the size of a boot lands near your helmet. Your ears ring again. There's always brick dust in your mouth somehow. You crawl forward on elbows and knees. There's no real cover, just the illusion of safety behind a wagon here, some shattered tram tracks there. You duck behind sandbags that look like they've been rotting since 1943. A blackened hand sticks out from beneath one. You don't look twice. A courier sprints past, boots splashing through mud that might contain more than just water. He's clutching a folded message and yelling about Soviets breaking through the eastern flank. Or maybe the northern one. Directions don't mean much now. The city's become a bowl of fire, and you're just another speck in the flames. You glance up. The sky's the color of wet slate. It's always gray now. What little sunlight gets through arrives in sickly yellow patches, flickering like a dying gas lamp. Smoke drifts through the streets in lazy spirals, as if the city itself is trying to hide from what's coming. You think about food, not because you're particularly hungry, just because it's something to think about besides dying. Your last meal was a turnip boiled in water. No salt, no fat, not even the usual lie about meat rations coming tomorrow. Last week, a buddy traded his wedding ring for a tin of sardines. His hands shook so badly when he opened it that he cried upon tasting it. You try not to watch, but it's hard to look away from genuine joy in a place like this. Footsteps behind you. You tense, but it's just Muller. His face is gray with soot. His hands won't stop trembling. He nods at you like nods still matter. He doesn't speak, just crouches beside you and starts cleaning his rifle for the 5th time today. The bolt jams. Naturally. Somewhere music plays. A miraculously intact record player in some apartment. The melody's faint, warped by distance and destruction, but you recognize the tune. Something slow. Something from before. You close your eyes for just a second, but in that second, you hear them again, Soviet drums. Artillery. Tanks. Shouting. You open your eyes. Berlin still burns. You're still here. And you still wouldn't last a day. You duck back into the half-collapsed building just before another artillery round hits. This one lands a block away, close enough to rattle your teeth and shake more plaster from the ceiling. You huddle in what was once a living room. A cracked teacup sits undisturbed on a shelf, surrounded by devastation like it's in complete denial. You pull out the bread crust you've been hoarding. It's harder than concrete and probably older than the shell casing you stepped over this morning. Still, it's something. You chew slowly, grinding it between your molars like it's teaching you a moral lesson. It tastes like dust and regret. The official rations ran out a week ago. Now you survive on whatever you can scavenge, trade, or steal. Finding a carrot in a tin can feel like luxury. Actual meat? That's fantasy. Earlier today, some soldier tried boiling his boots. Not as a joke. He genuinely thought leather soup might work. You passed, but you understood. You understand a lot of things now, like how your stomach has shrunk, how hunger fogs your mind, softening all your thoughts, how you don't even feel hungry anymore, just this constant dull ache that's become part of who you are. You peer through a shattered window. A dead horse lies bloated in the street, legs sticking up like chair legs. It's been there 3 days. Someone carved off a hindquarter the first night, but no one's dared touch it since. Too risky with Soviet shells randomly hitting streets at random times. When any breath could be your last, you don't waste them on spoiled horse meat. Fuel's another fantasy. Your unit's last working vehicle was a half-track with 2 flat tires and a gas tank made from beer kegs. It got hit yesterday. Now you walk or you don't move. The streets are so clogged with rubble that even bicycles are nearly useless. A month ago, maybe, someone rode a motorcycle down this block. It sounded like hope. Then he hit a mine and sounded like something else entirely. You're not supposed to talk about how bad it is. Officially, morale is resilient. That's what the surviving posters claim, the ones not burned or torn down. Der Sieg word unser saying, victory will be ours. You'd laugh, but you might choke on your breadcrumbs. The truth? There is no morale, just momentum. You move because stopping means thinking. And if you think too long about the hunger, the ruins, the silence where your friends used to be, you might freeze in a way people don't come back from. Historians still argue about how much the average Berlin defender still believed in the war effort by this point. Some say they fought from loyalty or desperation. Others say it was habit, or fear, or pure numbness. For you? Mostly fear. Fear of the Soviets. Fear of what surrender might mean. Fear of looking weak in front of the men next to you, even when you're all just different shades of broken. The worst part isn't the fear, it's the silence after the fear. Like now, between shellings, there's this awful, echoing quiet. It makes you listen too closely. Your ears latch onto tiny sounds. Rats scratching across floors, water dripping from broken pipes, your own heartbeat thudding like a distant drum. You almost missed the artillery. At least it drowned out the noise inside your head. You consider sneaking out to scavenge for food. There's talk of a bakery on Wilhelmstrasse that might still have flour in its basement. At least that's what a soldier from another squad claimed yesterday. But he never returned, and nobody went looking. Not from lack of caring, but from sheer lack of calories to spare for a rescue mission. Shifting your weight, you feel the stiffness in your legs intensify. Sitting still for too long turns your knees to stone. You rub them vigorously, trying to coax some life back into the joints, then pat down your pockets in routine inspection. One match, a dented cigarette tin housing nothing but air, and that photo of your sister, folded so many times it resembles a failed origami project. She's smiling in the picture, but you can't recall when it was taken. The memories slipped away like everything else. Movement outside snaps you to attention. You freeze. It's a civilian, a woman, dragging a dented bucket behind her. The metal scraping against pavement cuts through the unnatural quiet. She's heading for water, probably knows a building with pipes still functioning. She moves with quick, efficient steps, eyes downcast, face drawn tight like parchment left in the rain. You almost raise your hand in greeting. Almost. But what would be the point? Civil interactions have become rare these past days. Most civilians avoid you, and you can't blame them. To their eyes, you're not protection. You're the reason they're sweeping rubble instead of baking bread. Last week, an old man screamed at you, called you a murderer, a fool, a disgrace in uniform. You took it. What could you say? He'd lost his son in 43, his home in 44, and whatever remained of his hope sometime around January. You're just the last standing barrier between him and total oblivion. You move out again, slinking between building shadows like a feral cat. Your supposed mission is to report back to command. Not that command has any meaningful use for information anymore. The Soviets have reached the Spree River. That much you know. Your job is to pretend that means something, that someone will draw a line in the sand and declare no further, and that such a line might actually matter. It won't. Passing the skeletal remains of a cinema, you spot a tattered film poster clinging stubbornly to the wall. A glamorous woman in an elegant gown gazes out, lips parted mid-song. You wonder what that movie was about. Romance? Freedom? Dancing? None of those concepts exist here. Here, the only soundtrack comes from artillery and the sporadic stutter of a machine gun nest down the block. Turning the corner, you discover a small bundle resting on a crate. Supplies or trap? You can't tell. It's wrapped in cloth. You prod it cautiously with your rifle barrel. Inside, a tin of fish, some crumbling crackers, and a note that simply reads, "For when ES brocht." For whoever needs it. You don't know whether to laugh, cry, or suspect poison. You take the tin anyway. Maybe you'll share it later, if anyone's still alive by nightfall. It's early afternoon now, though you wouldn't know from the sky. The smoke has stained it a sickly brown. Somewhere to the east, the Soviets are positioning fresh artillery. You hear the familiar whistle and brace for impact. The shell lands 5 blocks away, still too damn close. You duck behind a mailbox, pressing your cheek against its cold metal surface. Exhaustion weighs on you like a second uniform. You could sleep right here, right now. But then reality intrudes. You haven't slept more than an hour straight in 5 days. Not since the bombing intensified. You're not even sure what day it is. Saturday? Tuesday? Does the calendar still matter here? Blinking slowly, your eyes feel gritty, like they've been packed with ash. Your breath comes in shallow puffs. Licking your lips yields no moisture, just the same dry, metallic taste that's become your constant companion. Down the street, someone screams, short, sharp, cut off too quickly. You don't move, don't investigate. And that right there is the real reason you wouldn't last a day in Berlin. Because this isn't war anymore. It's slow motion collapse. And the hunger, the silence, the endless gray, it's not just outside you anymore. It's seeped into your bones. A voice rasps behind you. Low, hoarse, too close. You spin around, finger tightening on your rifle's trigger, heart hammering against your ribs like it wants out. But it's just Schneider. Somehow, it's always Schneider. He has this eerie talent for materializing from nowhere, like some unpaid ghost with bad knees and an even worse haircut. He nods his usual nod and mutters. Sturmpioneer got hit again. Whole squad. Soviets came through a sewer line. You blink at him, not because it shocks you, but because nothing shocks you anymore. Sewer assaults have become routine. The Soviets learned that fighting above ground is like playing tag with grenades. So now they move through the tunnels, those damp, ancient passages that once carried water, mail, and gossip. Now they only transport death. You spit on the ground, a dry, pathetic attempt. You haven't had enough water for proper spit in days. Dust settles on your lips as if mocking the effort. Which street, you ask? Chassisstrasse. They're trying to flank the Charite. Still, you shake your head. The Charite hospital is half rubble, half mirage at this point. No one knows if it still functions. Rumors claim there's one working surgical table left, tended by a nurse who hasn't slept in a week. Others say the Soviets already took it and just haven't bothered to inform anyone. Historians will later debate exactly when that street changed hands. But to you, it's not a street anymore. Just another no man's land of ghosts and broken glass. You follow Schneider toward the fighting. Not because you've received orders, but because moving forward is the only direction that still resembles purpose. Left and right mean traps, and going backward means either desertion or surrender. Neither option ends well for German soldiers in Berlin. The closer you get, the louder the world becomes. Not just artillery now, actual combat. The staccato bursts of small arms fire. The distinctive crack of Mosin-Nagant rifles. The dull thump of grenades detonating against sandbags and desperation. You grip your rifle tighter, but your sweaty palms nearly lose their purchase. The stock feels sticky with old blood. You tell yourself it's not yours. You reach the ruins of a tram stop. Metal poles jut out at unnatural angles, twisted like overcooked spaghetti. A sign dangles from a wire, still warning Achtung, Minengefahr, caution mines. But everyone knows there are no mines left here. They were triggered 3 weeks ago when a half-track full of wounded rolled over the wrong patch of sidewalk. Across the intersection, 3 soldiers huddle behind an overturned car. One fires blindly around the edge, while the others reload and mutter about running low on ammo. You duck and join them without ceremony. It's understood. If someone shows up wearing even a vaguely familiar uniform and that hollow-eyed stare, they're automatically on your team now. Peeking around the car, you spot Soviet soldiers moving between wreckage and smoke. They're advancing. You see helmet glints. Hear Russian commands barked. A voice in your head murmurs, "So this is it." You ignore it. Raising your rifle, you squeeze off 3 shots. One pings off pavement. Another vanishes into the haze. The third? Who knows? Your sights are off, and your hands won't stay steady. You reload. Or try to. The magazine jams. Naturally. Beside you, Schneider curses and ducks as a bullet zips past, punching a neat hole through the car door like it's made of wet cardboard. The other 2 soldiers have vanished, moved, or dead. You can't tell. Doesn't matter. The Soviets are pushing, and you've got maybe 20 rounds left. You backpedal, boots stumbling over broken glass and spent shell casings. An alley mouth beckons. It reeks of urine and burnt rubber. A stairwell leads down. Without thinking, you take it. The darkness below swallows you whole. You can barely see the steps. Running one hand along the wall, you feel brick, moisture, something slimy. The air hangs thick, warm, and reeking of mildew. The blackness feels alive. You fumble for that single match you've been saving. But it's gone. Probably used by someone else when your coat was unattended. You sit on the cold stone. Try to breathe. Try to think. But your mind doesn't produce thoughts anymore, just flashes. Your mother's hands kneading dough. A football match from 3 summers past. Your friend Tomash who died outside Kursk. That girl who gave you a scarf once and told you to come back. You lost the scarf somewhere near Minsk. A rat scurries past your boot. You don't flinch. You're past flinching. Leaning back, you close your eyes for just 1 second. Just one, and then the walls shake again. More shelling above. Dust rains into your hair. You don't move. You think of your original platoon. Back when this war still had momentum. Back when orders came from officers who knew your name. Now you're just shuffled into whatever ragtag group remains, scraps of units stitched together like a battlefield quilt. Yesterday, you met a man who swore he was Luftwaffe, said he used to repair planes. Now he clutched a Panzerfaust and guarded a hallway. No planes left to fix, he'd said, but plenty of hallways to hold. Historians will later debate how many divisions remained combat effective during the Battle of Berlin. Some will say 10, others fewer than 5. What you know is that no one fights in neat formations anymore. No flanking maneuvers. No clever strategies. Just you and whatever patch of wall you can hold for the next 10 minutes. Climbing back up feels like dragging centuries with you. Slow, heavy, each step a monumental effort. When you emerge, the world has gone eerily quiet. Not silent, but muted. Maybe the Soviets shifted their attack. Maybe your hearing's finally given up. Hard to tell anymore. You creep down the street, passing the wreckage of a city bus turned makeshift barricade. It's stuffed with sandbags and broken furniture. A teenage boy slumps against it, eyes wide open, blood soaking through a school blazer someone must have handed him as a uniform substitute. You consider closing his eyes, but don't. That kind of gesture requires energy you no longer possess. Besides, someone else will walk by eventually. Maybe they'll do it. Up ahead, a cluster of soldiers, yours, presumably, gather around a makeshift map table cobbled together from crates. One peers through binoculars with cracked lenses. Another struggles to light a cigarette, his hands shaking so badly he nearly drops the match 3 times. You join the group without announcement. Someone passes you a chunk of stale bread. You nod thanks and bite down. It tastes like chalk and stubbornness. A corporal leans over the map, jabbing a finger at a red circle. Soviets breached here. Again, we fall back to Moltkebrück. But that bridge was destroyed yesterday, someone mutters. The corporal shrugs. Then we hold the street before it. That's the extent of strategic planning now. Hold a street adjacent to a landmark that no longer exists. You don't argue. Just reload and prepare to move. Because that's what everyone does. You follow the man in front of you and pray someone follows behind. That's the closest thing to a unit you've got left. As the sun disappears behind curtains of smoke and ash, you start walking again, toward more gunfire, more rubble. Another night that'll likely end like the last. Hungry, filthy, and clinging to whatever shred of life Berlin hasn't buried yet. And still, in your bones, you know. You wouldn't last a day here, but somehow you already have. Shouting wakes you. Not the panic kind, the routine kind. As if shouting has become standard operating procedure. You must have dozed off again. Eyes open, head lolling against a wall, rifle still cradled across your chest like a security blanket. Your neck screams as you straighten. Maybe 20 minutes of sleep, but it feels both insufficient and like too much luxury. Sniper, someone says. Church tower. Of course there's a sniper in the church tower. There's always a sniper in the church tower. The Soviets have gotten creative. Every high window, every steeple, every half-collapsed roof becomes a nest. You peek out with your rifle's tip, not your head, because that's how Corporal Reiner lost half his skull last week. That bullet made a wet thwack like a hammer hitting raw meat, followed by silence. No scream, just that awful, limp collapse of a body forgetting how to stand. You blink the image away. It's one of many that's taken up permanent residence in your mind. A scrapbook of horrors you never asked to curate. The others crouch low, debating whether the sniper might be positioned on the old museum roof instead. You don't contribute. Just listen and breathe, trying to make your breathing not sound like terror. The street below looks deserted. Or does it? Except for those boots by the lamppost. Still filled. Still upright. The soldier who once wore them is elsewhere now, either blown clean out of them or collapsed out of sight. You don't investigate. You slip into the next building, a charred bookstore that smells of wet ash and paper ghosts. Toppled shelves lie like dominoes, creating a carpet of burned pages underfoot. You step carefully. Some books remain legible. Faust, Mein Kampf, Der Zauberberg. You pause over a children's book, Max und Moritz. The cover's half burned, but the boys still grin through the soot. It feels obscenely cheerful. You move on. The second floor groans under your weight. You pick your way to a shattered window with a partially clear view eastward. The church tower is visible through the smoke. And there, just there, movement behind an archway. You raise your rifle. Hold your breath. Then stop. You can't do it. Not from fear of shooting or missing. You just can't muster the energy to care. If it's your day to get shot, so be it. You lower the rifle. You'll reposition soon. Try to survive. But for now, you just sit, watching, feeling your heartbeat drum, its tired rhythm against your ribs. You wonder what it would take to end this. Historians will later debate whether Berlin's defenders expected rescue. Some claim they waited for General Wank's 12th Army. Others believed in miracle weapons or last-minute negotiations. But you know better. No cavalry's coming. No counteroffensive. No deal. Just a city collapsing inward, block by ruined block. A voice interrupts your thoughts. It's Junge, the medic. His canvas satchel was once green, now matches every other shade of gray in Berlin. You good, he asks. You nod. Any wounded nearby? Head shake. He exhales, rubs his face. Saw a girl yesterday. Civilian. Maybe 6. Lost her leg. Her mother tried carrying her, but he trails off. Shrugs. No morphine left. Silence hangs between you. You know what that means. The girl likely screamed herself unconscious. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she was tougher than that. Kids in this city are made of something strange now. Equal parts resilience and ruin, mixed like concrete. You offer Junge a corner of your bread. He declines, then produces a single sugar cube from his pocket, placing it in your palm like a sacred relic. You stare at it like it's a diamond. Keep it, he says. Or don't. Just didn't want it to go to waste. You nod, unsure whether to eat it now or save it for some hypothetical better moment. You tuck it away like a family heirloom. The shelling resumes at noon. Like clockwork. It's like the Soviets have a metronome up there, keeping perfect time. Boom, boom, boom. Not rapid, just relentless. The kind of rhythm that makes you wonder how much longer buildings can withstand the punishment. You press hands to ears, but the vibrations come through your bones. You run, out of the building, across the street, through a broken fence, into another cellar. This one reeks of kerosene and onions. You don't ask why, just grateful it's not full of Russians. You collapse against the wall, gasping. You're not out of shape, just out of calories to fuel the adrenaline anymore. Your muscles run on fumes and fading memories. Someone's already here, an old Volkssturm soldier in mismatched uniform. A shotgun rests across his lap. His eyes haven't blinked in years. Scheiß du, he asks, you shoot? Only if I have to, you reply. He nods, closes his eyes, and resumes, meditating? Dying. Can't tell. You hope it's not the latter, mostly because it would kill the mood. A radio crackles in the corner, spewing static. Occasionally, voices or music snippets break through. Marches, codes, official-sounding nonsense. The transmissions are either days old or from cities that no longer exist. One message repeats endlessly. All units hold position. Reinforcements inbound. You snort. If reinforcements exist, they're likely children or ghosts. Maybe both. You think of the last proper meal you had. Real food, not bread or cabbage water soup. Back in January. Potatoes with gravy. Maybe sausage. The memory feels fake now, like a borrowed dream. Junge returns with another man slung over his shoulder, bleeding, limp, ominously quiet. That's bad. Screaming means fight remains. They lay him in the corner. His legs mangled, one boot missing, the foot barely attached. Junge works fast. The wounded man doesn't blink. You hand Junge your near-empty canteen. He nods without words. You lean against the wall. Close your eyes. Just for a moment. But that moment stretches. And you're drifting. Half asleep, half remembering. You're 10 years old. Climbing a tree in summer. Your mother calls you inside for dinner. A dog barks somewhere. You feel warm. Safe. Then the bark becomes gunfire. And you're awake again. No scream. Just breathing. Deep. Shaky. Controlled. The man in the corner has stopped breathing. Junge covers his face with a rag. No words. You say nothing either. You reach into your pouch. Retrieve the sugar cube. You eat it. And for one fleeting second, It tastes almost like living. You emerge from the cellar just after the shelling stops. There's a moment, just one, where the silence feels too clean, like someone pressed pause on the war itself. No gunfire, no shouting, not even birds. Berlin hasn't seen birds in weeks. The sky is empty, the air thick with the stench of scorched stone and something metallic beneath it. You don't want to identify what. You move slowly down the ruined street, boots crunching glass with every step. That glass used to be windows. Those windows had curtains once. Those curtains were probably clean. Somewhere in the rubble beside you, a baby's crib lies half buried, one wooden leg jutting upward like a plea no one heard. A checkpoint looms ahead, or what's left of one. 2 sandbags. A wooden crate with a swastika stencil barely visible under grime. A sign leans drunkenly against a lamppost, Zuttert verboten. No entry. You almost laugh. As if anything is off limits anymore. As if order still exists. Movement behind the sandbags. You freeze, rifle raised, muscles coiled. It's a soldier, young, maybe 16, his helmet swallowing his head, sleeves too short for his wrists. He's aiming a carbine at you, hands trembling like he's holding a live wire. You lower your weapon slightly and say, "Comrade." He blinks, lowers his rifle. "Sorry," he mutters. "Thought you were." He doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. You walk past. He doesn't stop you. He's not guarding anything. Just playing soldier in a world that stopped needing uniforms. You pass a public square that once hosted parades. Now it's a cratered wasteland. Half a Panther tank lies overturned like a beached whale, its turret blown clean off. A leg sticks out from underneath. No one's moved it. At the far end, a burned-out kiosk shelves have melted into grotesque wire sculptures. A rusted sign still advertises Schokolade und Zeitungen, chocolate and newspapers. You stare at it. The letters are faded, but your mind fills them in. You used to buy sweets here as a boy, or maybe somewhere like it. Memory plays tricks now. Everything feels borrowed, even your own past. You duck into a side alley. Shadows swallow you like a cold embrace. Above, a pane of glass finally surrenders, shattering near your boots. You don't flinch. Just keep walking. 2 blocks later, you find a makeshift command post. Not because you were ordered to, but because you've learned to sniff out leadership, a radio antenna, a pile of cigarette butts, the low murmur of arguments. Inside, chaos masquerades as organization. A man with a map shouts at a man with a bandaged head. Another hammers a typewriter balanced on a crate. A woman in civilian clothes brews something that smells like coffee, but isn't. You hover by the doorway until a sergeant notices. "You with Ninth Company?" "Was," you reply. He grunts. "Join the others near the museum. We're expecting armor support." His tone is sarcastic, but not hopeless. Like he's repeated the line so often it's lost meaning. You don't ask what armor. There is no armor. The last Panzer IV you saw was missing tracks and being used to cook soup. You grab a biscuit from a tin near the exit. No one stops you. That's the currency now, whatever you can take without someone bleeding for it. As you head toward the museum, destruction unfolds in vignettes. A cinema poster clings to a wall, a glamorous woman mid-song. You wonder what the movie was about. Love? Freedom? Here, the only soundtrack is artillery and distant machine gun nests. A wrapped bundle on a crate. Inside, a tin of fish, crackers, a note, for when ES brocht. For whoever needs it. You pocket it. Might share. Might not. Depends who's alive tonight. A horse, dead 3 days, bloated in the street. Someone carved off a haunch the first night. No one's touched it since. Too risky with random shelling. You reach the museum steps. Cracked and pitted, the statues above riddled with bullet holes. A headless horseman, a sword pointing at nothing. Your assigned squad is small, 7, maybe 8 men. You recognize Lindner, former driver. Always smelled like petrol and peppermint. He's missing 2 fingers now, but still grins when he sees you. "You're late," he says. "Didn't know I was invited," you reply. He tosses you a cigarette pack with 2 left. You take one, light it, sit beside him on the steps. The smoke burns your throat. It's glorious. A lull in the shelling. Worse than the noise. At least when shells fall, you know where death is. In the quiet, Death could be anything. A creaking door, footsteps behind you, the wind mimicking voices. You try not to listen too hard. Historians will debate whether Berlin's last defenders believed they were making a stand or just delaying the inevitable. Some letters mention faith in a final blow. Others are just frantic scribbles, testaments of men unraveling. You fall asleep against a stone lion outside the museum. Not intentionally. Your brain just shuts down, like an engine pushed too far. You dream of nothing. When you wake, it's evening. The sky is a filthy orange. Fires pulse on the horizon. Shouting. Not German. Soviet voices. Close. Everyone scrambles. You do too. Back into position. Up the stairs. Through the main gallery. Once full of paintings, now echoing with boots and adrenaline. You're assigned to cover a side hallway. Not a grand battle. Just a corridor of plaster dust and shattered display cases. You crouch behind a toppled filing cabinet, rifle trained on a door that might open. And you wait, breathing, listening, sweating, shaking. The cigarette still dangles from your lips. Burned out, you stare at the door for what feels like years. Then it opens. A shape steps through. You fire. Once, twice, 3 times. The shape jerks and falls. Friend or foe. You don't check. You just reload. Because the door's still open. Because another shape is coming. Because Berlin won't stop. And neither can you. Not yet. The second shape moves faster. Just a blur before your rifle kicks against your shoulder again. The shot misses. Doesn't matter. Another soldier, one of yours, comes barreling around the corner, shouting in panicked German. Cease fire. Cease fire. You lower your rifle. Your hands tremble now, more from exhaustion than fear. The man you shot lies motionless on the floor, blood pooling beneath his uniform. The same tattered uniform you wear. You can't bring yourself to look at his face. Instead, you stare at his boots. Brown leather, laces undone. One heel worn thin from marching. The other soldier kneels beside the body, cursing under his breath. His name was Meissner. Just transferred in. Didn't even know this building was ours. Then, quieter. He was 17. You say nothing. What could you say? Sorry, wouldn't bring him back. Wouldn't cleanse your hands. Wouldn't stop the war. So you return to your post. Back to your corner. Back to watching the door. This is what war has become. Not battles or glory. Just mistakes piling up like sandbags. And you can't stop stacking them. Especially when it hurts the most. You try to steady your breathing, counting slowly to 10 in your head. It doesn't help. You can feel that familiar cold knot of guilt and adrenaline coiling in your gut again. Desperately, you search for a memory, any memory, that doesn't involve uniforms or blood or the metallic clank of a rifle bolt being pulled back. You remember a dog from childhood. Floppy ears. Named Max used to bark at shadows and sleep curled against your boots. You hated when he drooled on your shoes. Now you'd give anything to hear that stupid bark one more time. A thud echoes down the hall. Everyone flinches. But it's just debris collapsing somewhere. This entire city is collapsing, brick by brick. You feel it in your bones, like the walls themselves are exhausted. New orders come from a corporal you've never seen before. You're being repositioned near the Reichstag. Higher ground, he says. Better sight lines. You nearly laugh. What sight lines? What ground? It's all craters and rubble now. Still you go. You gather your gear, which now consists of your rifle, 1 spare magazine, half a canteen of water, and a dented mess tin. No blanket. No coat. Lost those days ago. Gave your scarf to a civilian woman with 2 children. She didn't thank you. Just took it and walked away. You hadn't expected gratitude. Following the corporal through the streets, the wind picks up, carrying the stench of burning wires and sewage. You pull your collar tighter, though it does nothing. 1 block at a time. 1 breath at a time. You pass an abandoned Panther tank half sunk into the pavement. A shell must have blown its track off, scarring the hull. The hatch hangs open. Thin smoke still drifts from inside, like the last breath of something that once mattered. Inside, someone has scrawled Keen Osweg Mare, no way out, in chalk on the interior wall. You wonder if it was written before or after the crew died. Maybe both. Maybe someone wrote it and waited. Maybe they're still waiting. Your new position is a half-demolished office building overlooking a boulevard barely recognizable as a street. The upper floors are mostly gone, but the third floor still has corners to hide in. From here, you can see the Reichstag's dome in the distance, smoke curling around it like a burial shroud. That building, once the proud symbol of German politics, is now just another broken shell. Holes riddle its walls. Statues stand headless. Yet command still calls it the center of our defense. As if the city has a center anymore. Historians will later argue whether German leadership truly believed the Reichstag held symbolic value worth dying for, or if it was just another myth to keep soldiers from deserting. You don't care. All you see is another pile of rocks waiting to crush the men beneath it. Night falls completely. Somewhere down the street, a machine gun rattles off a few rounds. Then silence. You peer through a broken window, watching the dark. Nothing moves. Or everything does. Hard to tell. A private named Weiss sits beside you. Small, pale, eyes wide as dinner plates. They say the Soviets are using flamethrowers now, he whispers. You nod. They are. Burned out 3 basements this morning. Whole families inside. You nod again. You saw it. One family tried running out when the flames hit. A man, woman, 2 kids. The woman was on fire before she reached the street. You don't finish the thought. Weiss keeps talking. Do you think, if they capture us, will they shoot us? Or take prisoners? You don't answer. Truth is, it depends. If you're lucky, they take you. Feed you. Maybe you survive a camp. If you're unlucky, and let's face it, you're spectacularly unlucky, they don't. You adjust your grip on the rifle. It's warm from your hands. It used to feel heavy. Now it's just another part of your body, like an extra limb that only knows how to pull a trigger. A shape moves in the distance. You raise your rifle. Scope's fogged. You wipe it. It's nothing. Or it was something. Either way, you didn't shoot. That's what matters. You didn't add to the pile. Your breath fogs in the cold air. It's that kind of chill that creeps up your sleeves and settles in your chest. You hunch your shoulders, trying to preserve what little warmth you have left. Weiss offers you a piece of chocolate. Real chocolate. You stare at it. Found it in a desk drawer, he says. Want it? You hesitate. Then shake your head. You keep it. He smiles like you've given him a gift. Like he's still young enough to believe kindness has meaning here. You lean back against the wall. Let your eyes close for just a second. And in that second, the city breathes. Not peacefully, but as a warning. A gust rattles broken windows. A distant explosion reminds you sleep is a privilege. You open your eyes. Still here. Still breathing. Still unsure why. You wake with a start, though you're not sure you ever fully slept. One eye cracks open, then the other. Your limbs feel leaden, like someone poured concrete into your veins while you dozed. Your neck is stiff. Your shoulder numb. Your mouth tastes like rust and regret. The light outside is that pale, ashen gray that could mean dawn or just more smoke. You can't tell anymore. Time stopped having meaning days ago. You check your pockets by instinct. No new holes. Still got your water canteen. Still that half biscuit crumbling in its wrapper. Still the photo of your sister, smiling in the picture while you don't. Weiss is gone. So are 2 others who shared your post overnight. No note. No explanation. That's normal now. People disappear all the time. Reassigned, deserted, or just vanished. You stopped asking. You roll your stiff shoulder and crawl to the edge of the ruined floor. Below, the street looks empty. Or maybe full, depending on how closely you're willing to look. Shapes slump in doorways beneath coats and flags, like memories someone tried to cover but couldn't quite bury. Others lie scattered in odd positions, frozen mid-thought, mid-sentence. Berlin doesn't clean itself anymore. From somewhere far to the east, you hear the low growl of tank treads. You freeze. That sound is unmistakable, not engines or boots, but a metal beast with purpose. And it's getting closer. The Soviets are advancing again. You brace yourself. No orders come, but none are needed. Everyone knows what this means. You shift position, joining 2 other soldiers behind a low wall that once divided an art gallery lobby. Paintings still hang, blistered by heat, warped by shrapnel. One depicts a sunny field with cows. You stare at it too long. They're bringing heavies today, One soldier mutters as he loads his rifle with shaking hands. Is heard they breached the Tiergarten. You nod, though your stomach tightens. Those tanks are monsters. Thick armor, high-velocity guns designed to crack panthers like eggshells. And now they're here. You glance at your own weapon. Scratched, slightly bent. Still fires, but unreliably. You've cleaned it endlessly, but it never feels ready. Like it knows this fight is pointless and is just humoring you. A boy, no older than 15, scurries past clutching a Panzerfaust. His oversized helmet clanks against his ears with each step. He sets up in the doorway, breathing hard, eyes wide. You want to tell him to run, but you don't, because you didn't run either. You peer through the smoke again, and then, there it is. A hulking shape emerging through the haze like a nightmare. The IS-2 rolls forward slowly, its turret already swiveling toward your general direction. Shadows behind it suggest more soldiers, more movement, more death on treads. You calculate distance. 30 meters? 40? Doesn't matter. Your bullets will bounce off like rain. That boy might get one Panzerfaust shot. Maybe. Then what? The tank stops. And waits. It's not even firing yet. It knows you're cornered. Knows Berlin can't fight back like before. This is psychological warfare now. Slow, heavy, relentless pressure. A predator watching its prey exhaust itself. Beside you, someone starts praying. You pretend not to hear. Another soldier lights a cigarette with hands that barely steady the match. The ember glows like a dying star in the dusty gloom. Then the shell comes. You hear it before you feel it. A thunderclap in your chest. The whole building lurches. The far wall vanishes in a spray of concrete and glass. Someone screams. Might be you. You're on your back. Rubble on your chest. Can't breathe. Your mouth opens and closes like a fish. You blink dust from your eyes and crawl toward the only light you see. Your leg's bleeding. Not badly yet, but there's metal in your calf. You press a rag against it, teeth gritted, swallowing the cry in your throat. The tank fires again. This time the floor gives way. You fall. Only a few feet, but it feels endless. You land hard in what was once a coat check room. The racks remain. So do the coats, dozens, dusty and elegant and abandoned. A yellow evening dress drapes across your lap. You shove it away and crawl toward the hallway. The hallway is a nightmare of smoke and moaning men. Someone drags another by the shoulders. Someone else tries to scream but can't make sound. It's a silent horror film. You stumble out the back door into the alley. Cold air hits like a slap. You lean against a wall, sliding down until you're sitting in a puddle of something you hope is rainwater. You can still hear the tank. But now you hear something worse. Boots. Lots of them. Soviet soldiers. Close. Moving in formation. Confident. Like they've already won. You look around for your rifle. Gone. You pat your jacket. Your knife's still there. You weigh your options. Fight. Run. Surrender. Historians will later debate how many German soldiers in Berlin's final days chose surrender versus those who simply ran out of options. Some claim defenders thought they could negotiate. Others say they fought to the last breath from pride, fear, or sheer confusion. You just feel empty. A door creaks open beside you. An old woman peers out. Her eyes widen when she sees you. She presses a finger to her lips, then waves you inside. You hesitate only a second. Then you limp through the doorway. She locks it behind you. Inside is quiet. Dim. One candle burns beside a worn chair. There's a kettle, a loaf of stale bread, a photo of a man in uniform on the wall. She doesn't speak, just gives you a blanket and sits. You don't know if you'll live another hour. But for now, you're not a soldier. Just a boy with a bleeding leg and a scrap of warmth around his shoulders. And in Berlin, that's the closest thing to peace you'll get. The woman doesn't ask who you are or what you've done. Doesn't ask which side you're on. Maybe she knows. Maybe she doesn't care. She just pours you a chipped tin mug of something warm and bitter. Might be tea. Might be hot water with memories. Either way, you drink. You sit in the quiet, your back against the wall, the blanket around your shoulders a flimsy shield against all you've seen and done. The air smells of boiled cabbage and dust. Artillery rumbles in the distance, constant, mechanical, like the city's death rattle. On the wall, The photo of the uniformed man watches you. Handsome, square-jawed, proud. His eyes seem to ask questions you're too tired to answer. Husband? Son? Brother? You don't ask. She catches you staring and gives the faintest nod. Stalingrad, she says quietly. You nod back. That's all. There's a mattress in the corner. She gestures to it. You hesitate, but your body decides for you. You lie down. It's softer than anything you've slept on in weeks. No springs, no clean sheets, no pillows. But it feels like a cloud. She says nothing else, just blows out the candle and retreats. You fall asleep instantly. And this time, you dream. Not of war. Not of gunfire or flames licking at your memories. You dream of water. Clear, cool water running through a mountain stream. You're barefoot, chasing something. Maybe a dog, maybe a friend. There's laughter, sunlight, the smell of pine. You're weightless in that dream, unburdened by smoke and ruin. A version of yourself that forgot how to hurt. But even dreams can't keep Berlin away forever. You wake to the sound of boots. Again, heavy, confident, deliberate. But this time, they're not outside. They're on the stairs, coming closer. You bolt upright, every muscle tense. Your leg throbs where it bled yesterday, still bandaged with a strip of your own shirt. You reach for your weapon. Still gone. You're defenseless. The woman is already at the door. She doesn't look at you, just presses a finger to her lips again. Then the knock comes. Hard, sharp, military. She opens it halfway. You hear the voices, Russian, firm. They ask questions. She answers softly. No soldier here. Just an old woman waiting to die like everyone else. They ask to enter. She pauses. You freeze. Then she steps aside. 2 Soviet soldiers enter. One tall with a narrow face and soot-stained coat. The other younger, round-faced, chewing gum like he doesn't care who hears. They scan the room. Look past the mattress. Past you. Somehow. You press into the wall's shadow, barely breathing. They check cupboards. Knock on walls. Ask about the other room. She says it's where she sleeps. They nod. One glances at the uniformed man's photo. Your husband? He asks in broken German. She says yes. German soldier? She hesitates. Then says, no. Russian. A pause. You nearly stop breathing. He looks at her. At the photo again. Then shrugs. No reason to lie. War's over soon. And they leave. Just like that. The door closes. The woman leans against it, eyes shut, breathing fast and shallow. But she says nothing. Neither do you. After a moment, you exhale. The breath feels like it's been trapped for hours. Maybe days. She turns to you, and for the first time, you see her clearly. Wrinkles, yes, but also grief lines, worry lines, the map of a life erased by rubble. Her hands shake as she picks up the kettle again, reheating the water as if nothing happened. You want to thank her. You try. Thanky, you whisper. She doesn't respond, just pours another cup and hands it to you. That's enough. You leave before sunrise. Not because she asks you to, not out of fear, but because staying would make you soft again, would make you remember what kindness feels like. And that's dangerous here. The morning air cuts through your threadbare jacket as you step into the street. The wind carries the scent of burning rubber and something sweetly rotten. You limp forward, the bandage on your leg holding, but not comfortably. Every step is a negotiation between pain and purpose. The city groans as it wakes, or maybe as it dies a little more. To the south, a thick column of smoke rises above what used to be apartment buildings. Someone must have hit a fuel depot. The fire glows orange through the haze, pulsing like an infected wound. You pass a group of German soldiers huddled around a barrel fire. No jokes, no stories, just hollow eyes and gray faces. One sharpens a knife with methodical strokes. Another stares into the flames like he's trying to remember what warmth used to feel like. They don't acknowledge you. You don't acknowledge them. This is the new language. Silence and sideways glances, and the unspoken understanding that no one expects to see sunset. You make your way toward the Reichstag sector, or what's left of it. The air grows thicker with every step. Gunpowder, burning paint, the sour tang of ruptured sewage lines. Along the road, remnants of uniforms lie where they were last worn, some gray, some field brown. One figure sits motionless with both flags draped across his lap, as if he couldn't decide which allegiance to relinquish. Near a collapsed tram line, another Volkssturm unit gathers, teenagers with rifles too large for their frames, some wearing paper armbands, others clutching homemade explosives. One boy cries openly, the others ignore him. Or maybe they're crying too, just quieter. Historians will later debate how many Berliners volunteered in these final days. Some will claim patriotism, others coercion, desperation, or delusion. You don't debate. You just walk past. At the edge of the Tiergarten, you stop. The trees are mostly blackened spikes now. The grass is gone. The ponds are clogged with debris and the occasional helmet bobbing like a macabre lily pad. But from here, you can see the Soviet lines. Close. Closer every hour. You sit on a bench, one of the few still intact. The wood is damp and warped, but it holds your weight. And for the first time, you let yourself feel it. The end. It's coming. Not with a bang or a trumpet blast, but as a slow exhale. A letting go. You lean back and close your eyes. You don't sleep. You just rest. For the first time in days. Because somehow, against all odds, you're still here. Still breathing. Still not completely broken. And that, in Berlin, counts as victory. The bench creaks as you shift. Your joints pop like dry kindling. The silence around you isn't peaceful, just what remains after too much noise. You watch a crow peck at something in the street. You hope it's trash. It probably isn't. Eventually, the spell breaks. A shell whistles overhead. Not close, just a reminder. Like the city tapping its watch, telling you to move along. You stand, stretch, and trudge toward the Brandenburg Gate. Every step feels heavier, not just from your injuries or exhaustion, but from the weight of what you now know. This is it. No turning the tide. No reinforcements. No miracles. Just you, a faulty rifle, and a city too proud to admit it's already lost. You pass under the remains of a grand archway that once led to a luxury hotel. A brass luggage cart lies half buried in rubble, still upright, as if waiting for guests who'll never return. You pause in the lobby. Just enough mosaic tile remains to recognize this was once opulent. A chandelier lies shattered, its crystals ground into glittering dust underfoot. A man sits in a corner chair reading a newspaper dated 2 months ago. He's in full dress uniform, boots polished, a pistol resting in his lap. He doesn't look up as you pass. Doesn't seem to notice you at all. You wonder if he's already gone. Not dead, just checked out. A body going through motions while the mind has left. You've seen that look before. You might be wearing it yourself. Out in the street again, the wind picks up. It smells of burning insulation and something sweetly putrid. You tighten your collar, though it does nothing. One block at a time. One breath at a time. You arrive at your new position, a cafe turned command post. A chalkboard still hangs behind the bar. The menu is faded but legible. Coffee 20 Pfennig, Apfelstrudel 35. Someone has crossed it out and written schmers, pain, price, everything. A lieutenant greets you with a glance and a clipboard. You can shoot. You nod. He points to a sandbagged window. Take position. See movement. You fire. No questions. You nod again. Questions are luxuries no one can afford now. Your new vantage gives a clear view of the boulevard leading to the Reichstag. The trees lining it are skeletons, twisted trunks, leafless branches, bark stripped away by shrapnel. Once symbols of order and beauty, now just another graveyard. Through the smoke, Soviet soldiers advance, small groups at first, then more. They move like they've done this before. They have, city after city, block by block. You open fire. You don't think. You just fire. Your rifle kicks. 1, 2, 3 shots. Pause to reload. Another burst. You're not aiming, just participating. Your bullets join the chaos, flying into the ether. Do they hit anyone? You don't know. Don't want to know. Someone on your floor returns fire with a machine gun. The staccato echoes through the building like a drum roll for a funeral. Windows shatter. Plaster rains down. The wall beside you cracks, a spiderweb of fractures racing through it like panic. You duck. Wait. Breathe. When you look again, one Soviet crawls toward cover, trailing blood. Another lies still. A third aims at your window. You fall back as the shot punches through the wall. You hit the floor hard, ribs aching. Dust fills your lungs. You cough, then crawl to the next window. Another soldier's already there. You squeeze in beside him, sharing space and ammunition. Name, he asks between shots. You tell him. Doesn't matter, he says. You'll probably be dead by morning. You smirk. So will you. He shrugs. Yeah, but I'm a better shot. You both laugh. It's hollow. Not joy, just static. The brain discharging excess energy before it turns to fear. You fight like that for hours. Or minutes. Time stretches and contracts here. Sometimes a second lasts forever. Sometimes whole days disappear between blinks. The building shakes again. Something heavy hits the street out front. You don't look to see what. You already know. Tanks. Artillery. Maybe the world itself finally collapsing under the weight of its own cruelty. You retreat to the kitchen. No real food. Just empty tins, moldy bread no one dares eat, and a jar of pickles someone guards like gold. You drink tepid water from a tin cup, count your bullets, inspect your boots. One has split at the toe. Not ideal. You stuff paper into the gap. Hope for the best. Someone lights candles now. For light, or maybe just the illusion of normalcy. The wax burns slow, soft, like it doesn't know there's a war on. You lean against a cold stove, close your eyes, and listen. Boots, voices, gunfire, screams. Always the screams. But beneath it all, you hear something else. Pigeons, 2 of them, up in the rafters, cooing like they're still in some other city. One with breadcrumbs and park benches, and people who remember how to look up. You smile. Then a man runs in, clutching a bleeding shoulder. They're at the gate. You grab your rifle. Ignore your aching leg. Shoulder the weight of your fear. You return to the window. And wait. Because this is what you do now. You wait. You shoot. You hide. You survive. At least until tomorrow. Maybe. And if not, well, at least you made it to today. Night falls like a slow hemorrhage. Not with a sudden darkness, but with the smoke thickening until even the fires seem dim. The air tastes of charred wood and something metallic, like licking a rusted pipe. You press your forehead against the cold stone of the windowsill, your rifle heavy in your lap, barrel pointed down, action open. You're not reloading yet, just breathing. Down the street, the Brandenburg Gate is a shadow of itself. You've seen it in parades, in textbooks, on postcards. Always proud, always whole. Now it's chipped, scorched, its columns pockmarked with bullet holes. The quadrigo atop it is headless, the chariot and horses blown off days ago. It feels symbolic, in the bitterest way, as if even the statues have deserted. Behind you, someone snores. Not the panicked, twitching sleep of war, but the deep, oblivious kind. You glance back. It's Weiss, somehow still alive, curled beneath his coat like a child hiding from thunder. His mouth hangs slightly open. You want to shake him, or wrap him in something warmer, or just watch, because seeing someone sleep without screaming is so rare now it feels like witnessing a miracle. You pull your coat tighter and check your pockets again. The sugar cube is long gone, eaten days ago, but you pat them anyway, not because you expect to find anything, but because your brain craves ritual. Repetition. It's the only structure left in this skeleton of a city. You remember when Berlin had trams, when couples strolled hand in hand along the spree, when music spilled from cafes at dusk and the air smelled of baking bread, not burning rubber. That memory feels like someone else's life. Your stomach growls, loud and long, like an animal protesting its cage. It's been doing that a lot lately, but it doesn't mean anything. You're past hunger, past needing. Now it's just noise. A field phone crackles in the corner. A corporal lunges for it, listens, says "Verstanden," and slams it down with a grunt. Soviet armor reached Wilhelmstrasse. They're coming from the south now too. Someone swears. Someone else lights a cigarette. Orders? You ask. Yeah, the corporal mutters. Hold. You nod. Of course. Always hold. But you don't say it aloud. You just return to your spot. Rifle up. Eyes forward. You think about what it means to hold now. Hold the street. Hold the building. Hold your position. Hold your breath. Hold your fear in your gut where no one can see it. You do all those things. Because what else is there? A shell screams overhead. Another hits nearby, shaking the walls and knocking plaster onto your shoulders. You duck instinctively, but nothing follows. Just the echo. Just the quiet that comes after violence. Like the city is gathering itself before screaming again. You look down. Your fingers are trembling. You hadn't noticed. You make fists until the shaking stops. There's movement outside. You see it just past the corner, a flicker of shadows. You press your cheek to the wall and squint. Soviet troops, moving low and fast. Then you realize they're dragging someone. A wounded man. German uniform. Blood soaks his chest. His legs trail behind him like dead weight. One Soviet has his arms. Another his boots. You don't fire. You could. You have a clear shot. But you don't. Because you don't know what it means anymore. Are they helping him? Capturing him? Looting him? Or just moving him out of the way? You don't know. You don't care. You lower your rifle and close your eyes. A memory surfaces, sharp, unbidden. A schoolyard fight when you were 12. Someone pushed you. You swung wildly, broke his nose. Blood everywhere. He cried. You didn't. Later, your father said, "Sometimes you win. Doesn't mean you're right." You wonder what he'd say if he saw you now. A boy with a gun, guarding a ruin, in a war that's already lost. You open your eyes. The street is empty again. The wounded man is gone. Weiss stirs behind you, muttering in his sleep. You catch the words home and mutter. You envy him. There is no home anymore. Not here. Not for you. You slide down the wall, knees up, rifle across your lap. You tell yourself, just rest your eyes. Just for a moment. But your body doesn't care what you tell it. It just stops. And suddenly, you're dreaming again. Not of war. Not of pain. You're on a beach. Wind in your hair. Waves licking your ankles. Someone is calling your name. And you run toward them. A bang jolts you awake. A grenade has gone off outside. The windows shatter. Glass rains down. Weiss screams. The wall cracks open. Dust fills your mouth, your nose, your soul. Someone's yelling. A corporal barking orders. A machine gun stutters like a nervous heartbeat. You scramble up, shoulder your rifle, and return to the window. They're charging. Not a full assault, just a probing attack. Testing the line. Seeing where you break. You fire. One shot. Then two. Then three. You don't know if you hit anything. Doesn't matter. Return fire zips past. You duck. Debris scrapes your cheek. You reload. Fire again. Your mind has stopped thinking now. It's just reacting. One thought. Stay alive. That's it. You keep firing. And when the street clears again, when the shadows retreat, when the smoke thickens once more, you lower your rifle. Weiss crouches beside you, wide-eyed, breathing hard. He says nothing. Neither do you. You just sit there. Two ghosts with warm guns and cold hands. And you wait. Because that's all that's left to do. The sunrise is a sickly thing. Not golden, but seeping through the smoke like pus through bandages. You're still at the window, still watching. The street below wears a fresh coat of ash, frosting a corpse. Weiss sleeps again, somehow, curled in a corner with his coat pulled over his face like a child hiding from monsters. But here, the monsters are the walls. The sky. The silence. The certainty. You stretch slowly. Your back cracks like dry firewood. Your fingers are stiff. Your mouth tastes of blood and gunpowder. You haven't brushed your teeth in days. You haven't cared in longer. The corporal is gone. Slipped away during the night. Maybe to relay orders. Maybe to never return. You don't ask. No one does. You just absorb the absence. You eat the last of your biscuit. It's stale enough to splinter. You chew slowly, savoring the bland nothingness. You trade your rifle for butter, for salt, for anything that tastes like a reason to keep going. There's a sound from below. Boots again. Always boots. You peer down, rifle ready. But it's not Soviets. It's civilians. A small group, 6 or 7. Mostly women. One man in a wheelchair pushed by a girl too young to understand any of this. They carry bundles, blankets, pots, the hollow remains of homes tied up in scraps of cloth. They walk with their eyes down, past the burned-out vehicles and shattered statues. Past the dead. Past you. They're not fleeing. Not exactly. Just drifting. You lower your rifle. One woman looks up. Sees you. Your eyes meet. Neither of you speaks. Then she moves on. You wonder where they're going. There's no safe zone. No food lines. No camps. Just more city. More fire. Still, they go? That counts for something. Someone stirs behind you. Weiss, rubbing his eyes like a boy waking from bad dreams. How long was I out, he asks. Doesn't matter. He nods, then coughs, a deep, dry sound from somewhere beneath his ribs. You toss him the last swallow from your canteen. He drinks greedily, hands it back empty. Thanks. You say nothing. He presses his back to the wall, staring out. You think they'll let us surrender? You shrug. Depends who you meet. He shivers. I heard stories. You nod. Me too. Historians will later debate how many of those stories were true, how many Soviet soldiers took revenge versus how many followed protocol. It likely depended on the day, the commander, the look in your eyes when you raised your hands. You glance at Weiss. He looks like a child wrapped in old uniforms. If it comes to that, you say, drop your rifle first, then your helmet. Keep your hands high. He nods too fast, like he's memorizing a spell that might save his life. You sigh and pull yourself up. There's more movement in the street. Soviet infantry this time. Advancing carefully, rifles raised. No shouting. No rushing. Just slow, methodical clearing. They know this area is contested. You look around. You and Weiss are alone up here. Everyone else is gone or dead. You could run. You could hide. But your legs don't move. Instead, you shout down. Don't shoot. Your voice cracks. Too loud. Too raw. A Soviet jerks his rifle up. You drop your weapon. Let it clatter. You raise your hands. Weiss does the same, breathing fast, eyes wide. The Soviets don't fire. They point. Bark orders in Russian. One gestures. Come down. You nod. Slow. Careful. You grab Weiss by the arm. Help him up. The stairs groan under your weight. The walls whisper. Your breath comes in shallow gasps. You step outside into the light. The Soviets surround you. Rifles ready. You don't run. You don't beg. You just hold your hands high and keep your eyes forward. One steps closer, a sergeant maybe. His face is smudged with ash. Eyes hard, but not cruel. He says something in Russian. You don't understand. You point to yourself, then Weiss. Soldiers. No weapons. The sergeant studies you. Then gestures. Move. You do. You walk. You don't know where. But away from the fight. Away from the gate. Away from the place where you almost died again. You glance back once. The cafe is gone. Collapsed into itself. If you'd stayed one more hour, you'd be part of it now. A crack in the foundation. A smear on the stone. You walk for hours. Past more rubble. Past more destruction. Eventually, you're herded into a courtyard. Others are there. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Mostly Wehrmacht. Some Volkssturm. A few in civilian clothes with military boots. You sit. You wait. Someone passes out water. You sip it slowly, like it might vanish. Weiss falls asleep sitting up. You don't. You watch the gate. You wait for a truck. Or a bullet. Historians will later argue what surrender meant in Berlin. For some, a long march east. For others, a shallow grave. You don't know which group you'll be in. You don't ask. You just survive. Because somehow, against all odds, you still are. You sit in that courtyard for what feels like days. It might be hours. Time doesn't work right anymore. It stretches and snaps like old rubber bands. At some point, the sky brightens, either sunrise or just the smoke thinning. You squint at the light but feel nothing. Not hope, not relief, just the familiar sting in your eyes. You've taken off your helmet. It sits beside you in the dust, dented, scratched, reeking of sweat and fear. You're not sure why you wore it so long. Habit, maybe. The thin illusion of protection. Now, in this limbo between war and whatever comes next, it feels like a costume from a play that ended badly. Around you, other prisoners shift. Most are silent. A few whisper rumors like they once traded cigarettes. Americans coming from the West. Führer's dead. They shot a whole group near Kalnischer Park. My family had a cellar. I told them to stay. You say nothing. You listen, and you keep your eyes on the guards. There's Soviet infantry, mostly young. Some look more exhausted than you. One leans against a wall, rubbing his eyes with his palms. Another smokes like it's the only thing tethering him to earth. Their uniforms are frayed, boots muddy. A few wear medals that gleam dully, as if embarrassed. No one speaks to you. No one hits you. No one tells you what happens next. Weiss is still asleep, head resting on his arm against the wall. Every now and then, he twitches, little jerks like a dog dreaming of running. You hope it's just dreams. Across the courtyard, an old soldier collapses. Just falls over sideways and doesn't get up. People glance. No one moves. After a while, 2 guards drag him away without a word. You swallow, but your throat is dry. The water they gave you earlier is long gone. You try to wet your lips with your tongue, but it's dry too. Eventually, a Soviet officer arrives. Clean uniform, sharp boots, leather belt that doesn't sag. He walks down the line, looking at each of you like livestock. His face gives nothing away. He stops in front of you, says something in Russian. You blink. He switches to broken German. Name. You tell him. He stares a moment longer, then looks at your hands. You shoot. You nod. Infantry. Where? Reichstag sector. Gate. He grunts. Makes a note on his clipboard. Doesn't look pleased or angry. Just like a man doing paperwork that will outlast the war. He moves on. Your stomach twists. Not from hunger this time. Something else. Like your body wants to be afraid again, but has forgotten how. You lean your head back against the wall and close your eyes. A song floats into your mind. Uninvited, quiet, strange. Something your sister used to sing when you were children. A lullaby, maybe. You can't remember the words. Just the tune. Soft and slow. It plays on loop in your head, like a broken record trying to soothe a burning house. You open your eyes when the shouting starts. A group of prisoners is being separated. 5 men. 2 guards shove them roughly. One stumbles and gets hit across the back with a rifle butt. They're led through a gate and out of sight. No explanation. Someone near you mutters, interrogation. Someone else says, execution. You don't want to guess which. Weiss wakes up, blinks around, disoriented. Where? Still here, you tell him. He sits up slowly. Do they know what to do with us yet? You shrug. I think I'd rather be in a camp than shot in some alley. You don't respond. Because honestly, you're not sure either option counts as survival. A bell rings somewhere. An actual bell. You're not sure why. A leftover church? A shift change? It cuts through the air like a knife, crisp and raw. Then a truck arrives. A real truck. Soviet markings. Covered bed. The engine idles like it doesn't want to be here either. Names are called. 10 at a time. You're not in the first group. You watch as they climb in, one by one. Some glance back. Most don't. The canvas flaps close behind them like curtains on a bad play. The engine revs. The truck drives away. It doesn't come back for a while. You wait. You count bricks in the wall across from you. Stop at 132. Start over. When the truck returns, your name is called. Weiss is 2. You exchange a look. No words. Just understanding. You stand. Stretch. Your back cracks again. A guard points to the truck. You climb in. Inside, it smells like oil, sweat, and fear. The floor is scratched. Boot prints. A few dark stains, dry now. You sit with your back against the wall. Weiss beside you. He grips his knees like they might run off without him. The canvas flaps close. You're moving. The truck bounces. Every pothole feels like an earthquake. You don't ask where you're going. Because whatever comes next, it's still better than what you left behind. Maybe. Maybe not. But at least now, the city is behind you. Berlin. The city that starved you, burned you, broke you, buried your friends, erased your past. Berlin. The city you thought you were fighting for, but which turned out to be just a coffin with street names. You don't look back. You can't. You just ride. Forward. Into whatever's next. The truck rattles over broken roads like it's trying to shake its passengers loose. You bounce with every pothole, your head thudding lightly against the canvas wall, legs jammed against the man in front of you. No one speaks. Not the German prisoners. Not the Soviet guards at the tailgate. It's a rolling coffin filled with breath and silence. The world outside is just vague shapes through the canvas. Burned out buildings, flickering fires, the occasional jagged silhouette of what might have been a church steeple or radio tower. Hard to tell anymore. Berlin's skyline is now just teeth knocked out of a skull. You lean your head back and stare up into the shadows of the truck bed. Someone coughs. Someone whispers a prayer. You don't. You're not sure who would listen. Weiss sits beside you, still clutching his knees. He's chewing his lip again, that nervous habit he's had since you met him. His face is pale, eyes darting left and right like he's trying to read something in the dark. After a while, he whispers, "Do you think we're going to a camp?" You shrug. It's the only answer you have. You've heard the same rumors he has. Some prisoners sent east, others put to work clearing rubble, some simply shot on the roadside. It all depends on who's in charge when the truck stops. Weiss nods slowly, as if that shrug explained everything. He doesn't ask anything else. The truck slows. The brakes hiss. You hold your breath. It turns a corner, rolls forward, keeps going. You exhale. Eventually, it stops for real. The canvas flap snaps open, flooding the interior with sickly daylight. "Rouse," someone shouts. Now, you climb down into a clearing. There's a building ahead, low, long, made of timber and concrete. A repurposed barracks. Barbed wire rings the perimeter. A watchtower stands at one corner, unmanned for now. A few guards linger by the entrance. A man in a brown overcoat steps forward. German, civilian clothes. Balding, brown glasses, clipboard in hand. He looks up, smiles, not warmly, but not cruelly either. "Welcome," he says, "to the Arbeitsverband. You're going to help rebuild what you helped destroy." You don't react. Not visibly, but inside a weight shifts. This isn't execution. This isn't Siberia. This is work. Forced, yes, but work. You're led through the gates in pairs. Inside, the camp is strange, not quite a prison, not quite free. You're told where to sleep, where to eat, where to dig. The beds are wood planks stacked 3 high. You're assigned the middle one. Weiss takes the top. There are rules. No fighting. No escape attempts. No speaking to civilians. No mention of Hitler, Himmler, or the Reich. Anyone caught breaking these rules disappears. No one asks where to. You spend your first day clearing rubble from a collapsed bridge. A Soviet engineer barks when you move too slow. Another throws you a piece of bread at lunch. You eat it in 4 bites and thank no one. At night, you sit outside the bunkhouse, watching the sky shift from gray to purple. Weiss sits beside you. He says, "This isn't what I expected." You nod. He says, "Do you think this is how we make it out?" You shrug, but in your gut, you feel something new. Not hope exactly, but the outline of it. Like a ghost trying to remember the shape of a man. And in Berlin, that's more than most ever got. The work is endless. That's the first thing you learn. It doesn't matter if your back aches, or your feet bleed through your socks, or your hands blister open. Every morning at dawn, someone yells, and everyone gets up. You move because it's better than the alternative, whatever that might be. No one wants to find out. You shovel gravel. You sweep glass. You drag timber, dig trenches, rebuild roads that will probably get shelled again anyway. Berlin is a carcass, and your job is to dress it up enough so the vultures don't lose interest. You eat when they say, mostly soup that tastes like warm water and old leaves. Sometimes they throw in potatoes. On those days, there's a pause in the shoveling, a moment of silent gratitude, even if the potatoes are green, even if they taste like the inside of a boot. A potato is still a gift here. You sleep on a wooden plank, on your side because your ribs ache too much to lie flat. Weiss sleeps above you. He talks in his sleep now, mumbles things you can't always hear. Once, you think he says his mother's name. Once, he cries. You don't tell him. You don't tell anyone anything. Talking has become risky, not because of the guards, though they listen, always, but because words cost energy, and energy is rationed more tightly than food. You keep your eyes open during roll call, your mouth shut during work, your head down at all times, and still, somehow, you live. One day, you're sent to the outskirts of the Tiergarten. The trees are still charred, but some have buds now, tiny green things pushing out from blackened bark. You stare at one for too long, until someone snaps at you to keep moving. You walk faster, but your mind stays with that leaf. You wonder what it knows that you don't. The rubble here is older, less fresh. You're assigned to help clear a trench line that's been collapsed by shelling. You work next to a man named Kirsch. He used to be a piano tuner. Now his fingers are swollen and cracked, and his eyes are always wet. He hums constantly, tuneless, like a bird that's forgotten how to sing. At lunch, he shares a slice of bread with you. You don't ask where he got it. That afternoon, you uncover a body. German, young, hands still clutching a rifle that's bent in half like a broken spine. The guards let you bury him. No ceremony, just a shallow grave under a patch of sun. You mark the spot with a stone and forget his name immediately. That night, someone steals from the kitchen. A loaf of bread. The entire camp is pulled from their bunks and lined up in the courtyard. It's raining, thin, cold drops that feel like being touched by ghosts. The guards pace the line, shouting, threatening. Then one of the men breaks. He steps forward, holding the loaf like a guilty relic. They beat him, in front of everyone. Not to death, just close enough. Then he's dragged off, and the rest of you are told to go back to bed. No dinner that night. Weiss throws up from hunger. You pat his back. Say nothing. Because what is there to say? Later, in the dark, he asks, "Do you think anyone knows where we are?" You shake your head. No. Silence. Then, "Do you think anyone cares?" You think for a long time. Then say, "I think the war forgot US." He doesn't ask anything else. The next morning, a Red Cross truck arrives. A woman in a white coat with a clipboard takes names. Checks teeth. Makes notes. You watch her the way you used to watch falling snow. Unsure whether it's beautiful or just cold. She points at you. Asks questions. How long have you been here? Where were you stationed? Any medical conditions? You answer honestly. You think. It's hard to remember where the truth ends and the survival instinct begins. She makes another note. Then, just before leaving, she presses a wrapped sugar cube into your palm. You look at it like it's treasure. Weiss watches you unwrap it. You break it in half and give him the bigger piece. He cries again, but only a little. After that, the camp changes. Subtly, more soup, a second blanket, guards who don't yell as much. Some say it's because of the Red Cross. Others whisper that the Americans are getting closer, that the Soviets want to clean up before anyone important arrives. Either way, things soften, just slightly. One day, you're told you'll be transferred. Where? You don't know. How? By train. Why? No one says. But the night before the transport, you sit with Weiss under the half-burned porch of the barracks. The sky is finally clear. You count stars. There are more than you remembered. Weiss says, "If we get out of this, I'm going to grow tomatoes." You nod. "I think I'll open a bookstore." He laughs. Even though you can't read half the time, you smile. First time in weeks. Exactly. The guards come the next morning. You line up. You board the truck. Berlin shrinks behind you. You don't wave. You don't look back. You just breathe. And for the first time in a long, long while, it doesn't hurt. The train smells like oil and rust and men who haven't washed in months. You sit on a wooden bench in the converted freight car, pressed shoulder to shoulder with other prisoners. Some you recognize from the labor camp, most you don't. The air is thick with breath and the faint, sour tang of damp wool and old fear. There are no windows, just narrow slits near the roof where light sneaks in like it's unsure it wants to be here. The car sways gently as the train clatters along battered tracks, screeching at every turn like it's in pain. You try not to think about where it's taking you. East, probably. That's what people say. East always. Where everything becomes slower, colder, more permanent. You don't speak much. No one does. Words are expensive now, and the return on investment is low. But Weiss sits next to you, knees drawn up, fingers steepled under his chin like he's praying or just holding his face together. His eyes flick between the slits in the wall and the floor. After a while, he whispers, "I hope it's not a mine." You blink. "Hey, what?" "Where we're going. That it's not a mine. Or a salt pit. Heard a guy say they send you underground sometimes. Into tunnels where the air's black, and the only light you get is whatever leaks through cracks in your mask." You nod slowly. It sounds plausible. Everything sounds plausible now. "I couldn't do that," Weiss says. "I'd go mad. No sky, no wind. Just the sound of picks and coughing." He doesn't wait for you to answer. He just shakes his head and goes quiet again. The train clatters onward. Hours pass. Maybe longer. You lose track. Someone vomits in the corner. Someone else has a coughing fit that doesn't stop. A guard opens the hatch occasionally to toss in a bucket of water and shout something in Russian you don't understand. You drink from the bucket like everyone else. The water is warm and tastes like tin, but you drink anyway. You always drink. At some point, the train slows. The wheels groan. The engine hisses like it's exhaling. The door screeches open. Sunlight floods the car, blinding after so long in the dim. You squint, raise a hand to shield your eyes, and step out into something unexpected. Not a camp, not a prison, a village. Small, quiet, nestled in a valley with green hills on either side. Trees with actual leaves. Fields with neat rows of something growing. Wheat, maybe. Or barley. A stream cuts through the land like a silver thread. Weiss says, under his breath, "Are we dead?" You don't blame him for asking. The guards heard you from the platform, not with rifles, but with gestures. A Soviet officer in a clean coat meets you at the gate. He has kind eyes. That's the first strange thing. He explains, slowly, in deliberate German, that this is a resettlement site, that you'll be here for post-conflict rehabilitation, that there will be food, shelter, work, yes, but not punishment. Not yet. You don't believe him. Not completely, but you want to. So you nod. They divide you into groups of 5 and assign bunks in long wooden barracks that smell of fresh sawdust and old rain. You get a corner bunk. Weiss gets the one above it again, like in the old camp. There's straw in the mattresses, real blankets, a small stove in the center, and wood already stacked beside it. That night, they feed you soup with actual meat in it. You eat it slowly, like it might vanish. No one talks. They're all too busy chewing or trying not to cry. After dinner, you sit outside on a tree stump and watch the sun dip behind the hills. It's quiet, unnaturally so. The kind of quiet that feels borrowed, like it could be taken away at any second. Weiss sits beside you, still chewing the last of his bread. After a while, he says, "It's not real, is it?" You shrug. Then, after a moment, say, "If it is, I don't want to wake up." You sleep better that night than you have in months. No gunshots. No distant tanks. Just the wind whispering through the boards and the sound of someone snoring softly across the room. In the morning, you're sent to help build fences. Not prison fences, livestock pens, apparently. You hammer posts into soft earth while a young Soviet soldier shows you how to wrap wire without cutting your fingers. He doesn't speak German. You don't speak Russian, but you nod at each other all the same. Weiss works in the gardens. He tells you about it over lunch. "We pulled up carrots," he says, grinning. "Tiny ones, but real. We even got to keep one. I split mine with an old guy named Holtz. He cried while he ate it." You nod. Try not to cry too. There are still guards. Still fences. But no one carries machine guns. No one barks orders. You're allowed 1 letter a week, they say. You haven't written anyone in a year. You're not sure who's still alive to receive it. But that night, you sit with a pencil and try. You write, "I'm alive. The war is over, but I'm still here. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if this is real. But there's bread now. And trees. And I can hear birds again. I think that means something." You sign your name, fold the paper, and sleep again. The sky is soft the next morning. Weiss whistles as he walks past your bunk. You whistle back. And just like that, you feel something shift inside you. Not fear. Not guilt. Not even hunger. Just something alive. And in Berlin, you forgot what that felt like. You settle into something like a routine. Wake up. Wash your face in cold water from a metal basin. Stretch until your joints remember how to move. Eat a slice of bread with a smear of jam. Real jam. The kind that clings to the spoon like it doesn't want to let go. Then work. Today, it's repairing the roof of a tool shed near the stream. You climb a ladder that wobbles in the wind. Nails between your teeth. Hammer at your belt. Weiss steadies the base and jokes that if you fall, he gets your blanket. You tell him he can have it if he remembers your sister's name. He pauses. Frowns. You both laugh. The sun is warm. That's new. Not just visible, warm. It seeps through your clothes, into your bones like a silent apology for everything that came before. You close your eyes and tilt your face toward it, and for a second, you imagine what it might be like to be free again. Not free from barbed wire or guards or orders. free from remembering, from the weight of what you saw, what you did, the people you left in the rubble of a city that doesn't exist anymore. But then the hammer slips from your belt and clangs to the ground. Reality returns. Wise calls up, "You good?" You nod. "Just thinking." "That's dangerous." "Tell me about it." After work, you wash in the stream. The water is icy, but it feels good on your skin. You scrub your arms, your neck, even your scalp, until the dirt comes off in gray streaks. You catch your reflection in the water. You look older, like the version of yourself that survived another decade without aging well. You stare for a while, then splash the image away. That night, dinner is cabbage stew and a biscuit. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, making it last. At another table, a man plays harmonica, badly, but no one complains. The sound is thin and off-key and full of longing. Weiss leans over. He played that same song yesterday. "So, I think he only knows one." You both grin. After dinner, they ask for volunteers. You raise your hand without thinking. So does Weiss. You're taken to a barn at the edge of the village. Inside are crates stacked to the rafters, clothes, blankets, tools. Your job is to sort them. An older Russian man oversees the work. He doesn't speak much German, but his tone is kind, gentle. He hands you a coat from the pile. It's heavy, wool, double-breasted. You check the lining, a name stitched inside in fading thread. L. Klein. You wonder if he survived. If he made it to Switzerland or Sweden or some other S that wasn't swallowed by the war. You fold the coat neatly. There's something meditative about it. Touch, fold, stack. A rhythm you can hold on to. Weiss finds a child's shoe. One has a hole in the sole. He picks it up, stares at it, then quietly sets it aside. Afterward, the Russian man gives each of you a boiled potato. As thanks. No salt, no butter, just warmth. You eat it standing by the barn door, watching the fields darken. Fireflies blink in the grass like tiny stars trying to return to Earth. You sleep well that night. No dreams. Just the rustle of straw and the steady breathing of men who, like you, are learning how to be alive again. The list goes up one morning without warning. Names. Dozens. Yours is there. So is Weiss's. You're being released. Just like that. No ceremony. No explanation. They give you a new shirt. Pants that fit. Boots with intact laces. A sack with bread and dried fruit. A slip of paper with stamps and instructions. The night before you leave, you can't sleep. You walk to the edge of the compound, past the carpenter's shed, past the stream where frogs croak under the reeds. You sit by the fence and stare at the moonlit hills, soft as a blanket tossed over the world. And for the first time since Berlin, you let yourself cry. Not the shaking sobs of terror or grief. Just the quiet kind that falls like rain. Weiss finds you there. He doesn't speak, just sits beside you. And when you both stand and turn back toward the barracks, the stars above are sharp and bright and real. Morning comes fast. Papers checked. Bags handed out. A truck idles at the gate. Weiss boards first. You follow. Before climbing in, you glance back. At the bunks. At the trees. At Jacob, watching from the carpenter's shed doorway. He raises a hand. You raise yours. The truck rolls out of the compound. And Berlin is a long, long way behind you now. The road unfolds beneath you like a lullaby. You lean against the canvas wall, eyes half closed, hands folded in your lap. The sun rises slow behind the hills, painting the world in soft gold, the kind of light that touches everything like a memory. The engine hums, steady, persistent, almost comforting. You breathe in and out and let it all fall away. The sounds of Berlin, the explosions, the screams, the crack of rifles in alleyways, dissolve into the background like echoes fading into silence. Your muscles, once coiled tight with constant tension, begin to loosen. Your jaw unclenches. Your fingers, still calloused from work, finally relax. You picture Weiss beside you, dozing with his chin on his chest. You picture the carved bird in your bag, imperfect but whole. You think of bread that doesn't have to be stolen, of dirt that doesn't hold bones, of hands that build instead of break. The air smells clean. There are no uniforms here, no ranks, no sides, just people, some broken, some healing, all moving forward. You close your eyes, and in that soft darkness, you see not rubble, but windows filled with light. Not gunfire, but footsteps in grass. Not orders barked through radios, but laughter from an open door. The truck bumps over a stone and sways gently. And then, stillness. Not because the world has stopped, but because, for the first time in a long time, you started to feel safe inside it. You are not the boy who stepped into that bunker in Berlin. And maybe you'll never be whole. But you are here, still breathing, still trying. And for now, that is enough.